Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com. And it is Monday. It's September 10th. This will be our chart lesson for the day. And it was mostly sideways today. We had a little bit of a sell off, and then we just really kind of rocked sideways here. But there still is, I believe there's a two-tiered channel working lower here. And you can see that. It looks like there's two tiers to it as well. And but it's mostly sideways. You can see we're swinging above and below the EMA consistently all day here. Started right at the open this morning. We still had a little bit of an uptrend left over from the overnight, but really we started going sideways, way over here. So, and you can see it just working sideways. We had a failed break higher. I like those trades because a lot of times you'll catch a major high. If it's at the bottom, you'll catch a major low. Generally, you want to wait on the lower high. You didn't get one till way down here, and we'll talk about that when we get there. But it's sometimes it's worth taking a chance on these, especially when you've been going sideways that much, and you can see the consistent resistance there, and then it breaks higher. And there's really two measured legs up there as well. You can see that leg, and there's a little double swing there, and then there's another measured leg, and they're basically measured legs. So you may risk that one. And other than that, it was really sideways all day. So we'll back out a little bit more. You can see the bigger picture there. Let me back out some. We'll go through the trades. Won't take long today, and we'll wrap this Monday up. It's getting a little late here, and I hadn't got this done yet, so I'm going to probably move through it pretty quickly. But anyway, we were working up in this two-tiered channel here when I came in, and we were just kind of, as I said, we were kind of working sideways, and you can tell there's a double bottom, there's a double top. It's a little trading range, and then you make a lower high here with a nice bearish bar, second entry short. There really was a second entry right there, but that's a leg up and another leg up. So for all intents and purposes, that's a second entry short. But it's a lower high more than anything after a double top and a nice bearish bar. Let me make this a little bigger. That's hard to see. Even for me sitting here, that's hard to see. So I'm sure on the screen it's going to be even harder. So just go short right there. And you're probably looking for it to ride it back down to here. Maybe it'll go down to the trend line and bounce. And of course it does. And it actually went lower here and turned and went back up the upper side. That's a second entry long bouncing off that key entry point. It's also a little failed breakout lower. I like that one. You make a higher low here and bounce off the trend line again. I like going long again. And the interesting thing here is you get just enough to get out. And so if you're already in, I don't have a problem adding on there. I really figured we'd go back to the high. It doesn't, but there's enough to get out there with your scalp. And then you get a little failed break, but you don't really get a higher low or any good signal bar here, and it runs right back up to the top. Now you've had a break and a move to a high. You don't quite have a new high. You stalled right at the same high again, but notice you made that high. You tested it once, you tested it twice. Look how bearish that bar is. So I like going short there. It is green because generally you want to wait on a lower high. I did make that one green, but it meets the double top or the double test rule. It's obvious resistance there. You have had a break and almost had a new high, and it's a big bearish bar, but it is right back into the EMA. You don't have a lot of room back down to here. Again, it gets just enough to get you out, and that's why it's risky, because it may not have got that extra tick every time. So you got to be careful with those. And then of course we move higher again. You really could, this is really a failed second entry short here, but because by the time this triggers, you got this congestion. Look, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bars, stems on each side. This one's close to being a doji. This is close to being a doji. This is really kind of a neutral bar. And so it's a little bit risky. You probably could argue for it to be green when it broke higher, because this is a relatively bullish bar, but it's right in that congestion. So you could probably argue for that one to be green. Your entry is one tick above this bar, but your stop's got to go below this one. So just remember that. Then it runs up, and now you got the two legs up, and you get that failed breakout. You may not have been able to get in. I know you probably wouldn't have got in this with a sell stop because prices gapped over and just kept going. And so you probably had to put a limit order in there. It's questionable if you'd got filled on it or not, but it's still a good trade. I marked it, but there's probably a good possibility you couldn't get in that trade. And of course, it's working down first entry, working down second entry. So you got a failed second entry long, but you don't want to go short right into these lows. We bounced there too many times. But when it tries to go higher again and it breaks higher and fails and turns down, go short when it breaks below that bar. Because notice the high, you test it once, you test it twice. So you got to double test there, and if you want to make sure you got enough room to get out here. And if you do, you probably take that trade. If you don't, you may want to let it break lower and back up, which it would have, and you could have gotten filled a tick or two back into this bar and made sure you had enough room. So just keep that part of it in mind, though. Then you push on down, you pull back, you get a little breakout pull back short, and a confirmation of that trend line. And it actually went higher and turns and goes out the other side. Just go short there. And you could go short below that, but there's a little 2-bar matching low there. I don't know if I would have waited to that bar close, but when it broke higher and turned and then broke out the other side, I'd probably go short right there off that key entry point. There is a double top here, so notice first entry, you move down, you got a failed second entry long right off the key entry point. It almost looks just like this. It went higher, then turns and goes out the other side. Just go short there. It's basically a repeat pattern, plus it's a failed second entry long. It is off a key entry point. Then we're working on down. You move up here, you get a break outside. You get a double top right here and a second entry short, but that bar is too bullish. Turns out to be a failure, and you could go long. I made this one green though because that bar is, I don't know how many. Let's look at that bar. If your bar looks like that one, well, it's not telling me how many ticks it is, but you can almost see it here. 79 to almost 82. It's almost a 3-point bar if it's not a 3-point bar. So it's a little risky, but I marked it because it meets the criteria. And if you'd have taken it, it would have worked. You move on up, and you get another little failed second entry short right here when it broke above this one. I didn't mark it because we already had, it's kind of questionable if we had a close outside, but it looks like it, and this is more sideways than anything. This is like a little breakout pullback, and notice it tries to go lower once, tries to go lower twice. If you notice that, you might take that, but your former support, which is now acting as resistance, is right there. There's not much room, so I didn't mark it. The better trade was when it pushed up here to a new high and on a little failed break higher and that nice bearish bar. And that is a second entry short. Notice that low, first entry, second entry. And so I like that one. Again, it's a nice bearish bar, and I mean, it just rockets down. I would have made this one red, but it's a little bit risky on that. You really want to wait on a lower high, but you don't get one here. So if you didn't take that one, you don't get a trade. You might look at this one and say, hey, well, that looks like a lower high, but it's really not, because now look how we're rocketing up. I drew the trend line along here, but you can't argue that maybe it wasn't more like that right there. And that's your first break, but even if you use this one, you hadn't had a break yet. So I don't think you want to go short there yet. And then you get the little failed break higher. And again, now you got a bunch of congestion here. It's probably congesting because it's trying to go higher, and it probably needs to correct. But you don't really get a good setup there, a good bearish bar. You got one right here, and if you'd taken that one, it would have worked. But I think it's too risky. You could probably argue for that one to be green, but I think it's too risky. I don't like it. I'm going to go ahead and mark it because it does fit the criteria. and it would have worked. And it is, I mean, you really could have looked at that like 2 legs up right there as well. So it rockets on back down again, and then it bounces. You don't get a good setup off the bounce, but you get a nice higher low here. It actually went lower and turns and goes out the other side. Just go long right there. And I would look for it to come back to the highs again. You know, we keep coming off the lows back and forth to the highs. And then you get up here and you do make a higher low right here now. And so it actually went higher and turned, just starts going out the other side. You could have gone short right there, or you could have put a sell stop right here, or you could have let it break lower and maybe dropped the limit order a little further back, and it would have come all the way back to about here and filled you. So there were a couple of different ways to enter that one. That bar is too neutral for a lower high to go short there. And when you get your little failed second entry long or whatever here, you don't want to go short right into that. Even though it would have worked, you can't risk that. And you just keep moving down. Then we're just stuck in this sideways stuff again. You don't want to go, you just sit tight on this. I mean, we're probably, you would think we're probably working lower to test this line or else test the lower side of the trend channel line. And you can tell we bounced there. So once we got that bounce, I don't think I would have bought any of these, even though you get a double test and a nice bullish bar. It's right back into the EMA. And notice how it broke higher and pulled back again before it went higher. It still would have worked. And you may argue for that a double test coming off the lows on what looks like a range day. So you might make it green, but I really don't think you want to take that long there. Wait on a higher low, which doesn't come to right here. And there's your signal bar, not bullish enough. It's a first entry. I think I missed the breakout here, but notice how you're just kind of stuck in this trading range. Here's your lows, here's your highs, and you may go short right there. It's a failed break higher. I like waiting on a lower high, but it does meet the criteria. There's a double bottom here, so that's technically you could treat it like a second entry as well. We push on up, pull back, and this is a double bottom, so that's a first entry, second entry. It fails right off the EMA. Nice bullish bar. I like going long there. And you're probably headed back to here at the minimum, and maybe back to here. Turns out it kind of meets at the same place there. If you drug this on, they're real close. But it turned down because there's probably a trend line. And I got this line off the lows and pulled it up here. And we finally came back and touched it and turned down there. Not good enough signal bar. Even though you got to close outside and a couple legs up, that bar is too bullish. You get a lower high here, you're just kind of going sideways, a lot of stems and stuff again. And actually, the reason I didn't even mark this failed second entry line, we got over into the 2 o'clock hour, so it doesn't really matter. But there just really wasn't even this was in the 2 o'clock hour, but there was no setup there. I wouldn't have a problem going short right here just after 2 o'clock if that would have given you a nice bearish bar and you see the two-tiered channel, but it didn't matter because it didn't give you a setup anyway. So for all intents and purposes, this is just sideways stuff, but it does have a downward bias to it, and you can see that two-tiered channel. And of course, I drew all the short-term ones, and really I didn't talk about this. Once we started going lower here, can never grab the right one, no matter what I try to grab. I would have measured that, and this is where we started lower again. We didn't quite make it, but that's because I believe we're in this two-tiered channel and it wasn't going to work that lower. We still could be working lower, but it's into the next trading session now, so it doesn't matter anyway. But that's what I saw today. There were still several trades. You had to be a little patient today. And this kind of trading is probably hard for most people. When you start swinging above and below the EMA there, just look for the range. And again, today, you weren't consistently clear every time you came down exactly where the lows are, so that makes it harder. Although this is where most of the touches and turns happen, and you can see it was acting as resistance later, and then it acted as support a little bit there before it fell through and took off again. So that's why that line is there, because just where you get the most touches and closes on, and you can see prices working it on both sides. Same thing here, we're working it on both sides, even though it pushes through a few times. This one's relatively clear, this little sideways channel here. This one is not. We didn't make, you didn't consistently turn down at the same spot. It was the same general area, but it's, there's a point or so difference a couple of times, or 3 to 4 to 5, 6 ticks difference every few times. And same thing down here. It's not consistently at the same spot like it was up here. So that makes it a little harder, and you got to be a little more careful. So anyway, that's what I saw today. Hopefully you had a good trading day. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow, but I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.